All right, shalom to 12 tribes. All praise to the Most High Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai. Peace and blessings to all you brothers and sisters that are on here right now or that'll be watching this live later on. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath to all of y'all that are observing the Sabbath. Some of y'all who may be observing the Feast of Trumpets or who did yesterday or who will be tomorrow, like my house will be. Shalom, peace, and blessings to all of y'all. So, today I'm going to do a quick lesson on idleness and how it leads to evil, right? So, as you can see by the title, it's called Idleness Leads to Evil, Slothfulness, or Working unto the Most High, right? So, I'm going to go ahead and start in Sirach 33 and 27. It says, Send him to labor that he be not idle, for idleness teacheth much evil. So this verse is saying that idleness teaches much evil. Right. So while I get a couple verses real quick, I want to just ask anybody who's on here a quick question, right? Think about this, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but to self-examine. What did you do this week that was beneficial to your salvation, right, spiritually? Or what did you do this week as we're ending the week with the seventh day? For those of y'all who are observing Sabbath today, like I said, what did you do this week that led you away from evil that benefits your salvation, either physically or spiritually, right? Because we have to be constantly in a state of evaluation of ourselves, of our spirits, of our hearts, and also of our actions, right? Because when it talks about evil and idleness in this verse, it says, Send him to labor that he be not idle, for idleness teaches much evil, right? Layla, Amelia, Shalom, Danny, tribe of Issachar, Shalom, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. If y'all are observing Sabbath, right? So we always have to be in a constant state of bettering ourselves and doing everything that we can do as unto the Most High, right? Which this is Colossians chapter 3 and verse 23. It says, And whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to Yahweh and not unto men. Right? Think about all the things that you do for men or for women or for yourself, right? Whether it be working, whether it be making money, whether it be changing the way you look, whether be changing the way you talk or act for people in order to fit in order to please other people. Right, this verse says again, Colossians 3 and 23, it says, And whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to the Most High and not unto men. So everything that we do, we should be doing it as if we're doing it for the Most High and not as if we're doing it to men. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and read the same verse in the NOT. Okay, it says, "Work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Most High rather than for people." Right? To put it in layman's terms, work willingly at whatever you do as though you were working for the Most High rather than for people. Right? And some of y'all may have remembered, I've done a few lessons on this topic. The Most High just put on my spirit to do this topic again because I've heard of multiple people, and I think at one point or another, all of us have fell into a lazy or slothful or idle spirit at one point in our walk, right? Everybody. I've even fell victim to this over the years, right? Being in the truth for more than 6 years. Um, so we have to be in a constant state of just doing things as if if we're doing it for the Most High, which in reality we should be doing everything as if we're doing it to the Most High, right? Because if we're not, then we're either doing it only for ourselves or we're doing it for men, right? And that's why I always ask, or always try to ask brothers or even sisters. Like I had a brother recently ask me about, oh, do you think it's okay to do this? And I said, yeah, it's lawful, but what's the purpose as to why you are doing that, right? Are you doing it to give glory to the Most High? Or are you just doing it for yourself, for self glory, for vainglory, right? So we should all be working at whatever we're doing as if we're doing it for the Most High. If you're cooking for your husband, you should be cooking as if you're cooking for the Most High or for Yahushai. If you're cutting your yard or your trees, you should be cutting them to the best of your ability, like if you're cutting the Most High's yard, right? Whatever you're doing, you should be doing it as unto the Most High. And as a rule of thumb, if you do that, I guarantee you everything you do is going to be better. If you're working out, work out as if you're doing it as unto the Most High, right? Shaul Yisrael, Shabbat Shalom. Sister Layla, gardening and memorizing verses and prayers, translating into Paleo Hebrew. Khan, all praises, all praises. Me as well, doing a lot of gardening, memorizing verses, prayers. That's good for any and all of us, right? Learning gardening skills, as I've said many times before, learning any type of horticulture, just raising animals, plants, and stuff like that is gonna come in handy in the very near future. It's already comes in handy right now, right? But also, obviously, memorizing verses, as it says in Proverbs and in Psalms, writing verses or writing the word upon the table of your heart, right? That's actually something that is very important as well, and it takes work to do, right? Because a lot of people would rather spend an hour, two, three, four, five, however many hours on social media than memorizing verses, right? Than spending 1 hour on memorizing verses. So I'm gonna go ahead and read that as well. This is Proverbs chapter 7, and I'm just gonna start from the top. Chapter 7, verse 1. My son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with thee. Keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of thine eye. So what is he talking about here? He said his words and his commandments in verse 1. Verse 2, it says again, keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of thine eye. So the subject here is his words, his commandments, his law. Verse 3, bind them upon thy fingers, write them upon the table of thine heart. Right? So we're to write these words upon the table of our hearts. Right? And I find it very interesting that, as I've said many times before, a lot of brothers that try to teach the word and teach all these, intricate and deep breakdowns and dark sayings and prophecies and all these things, haven't even memorized the Ten Commandments, right? That's what you call jumping the gun. That's what you call trying to digest the meat before you even can digest the milk, right? So yeah, gardening, memorizing verses, prayers, translating them into Paleo Hebrew. For those of you, I know I've said it before, but for those of you who wonder how to do that, if you go to the Blue Letter Bible online, it will show you the Hebrew words in the modern Hebrew, and then you would just have to translate from the modern Hebrew into the Paleo Hebrew by just getting the alphabet in the modern and the Paleo, and then just translating it from modern to the Paleo, right? Shaul Yisrael, pray for me currently homeless. Khan, anybody who wants to give alms to the brother, that's his cash app. On PayPal, Marquess Burton. Khan. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Malak Marcos, Kingdom Minded 144. Pray all y'all are doing well, staying under the Most High's wing, doing what you need to do in order to be accounted worthy in these last days, right? So let's go ahead and go to Ecclesiastes 2 and chapter 2 and verse 24, right? 2 and 24, it says, there is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw that it was from the hand of the Most High God. So this is Solomon, which had a crazy amount of riches. He had wealth, he had money, he had women, he had a whole kingdom. But what did he say? There's nothing better than? He said, there's nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. Right? When you labor for something and you actually earn it, you earn it through working for it. There's a different type of reward. There's a different type of way that you can enjoy something that you actually worked for, right? And when you work for something, or when you're constantly in a state of work, whether it be working in the scriptures, whether it be physically working. I know for me personally, like I one thing I love to do is what they would call gardening or horticulture, right? In the past probably month or month and a half, I've planted like maybe 15 trees. Right now, that sounds kind of easy. Someone would just think, oh, you just plant it, just dig a hole and put it in there, cover up the hole, right? But there's way more that goes into it than that. You have to build up the soil. You got to do layers and layers, what they call lasagna layering. Do like dry leaves, and then you do some grass clippings, and then you do some horse manure as some compost, and then some more dry leaves, and then some more grass clippings, some all types of stuff that goes into it, right? To build up the soil and to actually grow things. And all praise to the Most High. My rib actually saw today on two of our cherry trees were actually getting cherries for the first time. But there's a reward in those labors, right? And it's not just physically; it's also spiritually. There's so many lessons. It's like one of my brothers, AZL, has said one time, and my brother y'all as well. We have to all understand that Israelites were horticulture people. They were people that worked the land, and there's a lot of lessons that can only be learned through agriculture, right? That's like when Yahushua talks about the good ground and the bad ground, and he compares people to trees that have been watered and that have not been watered. When he compares us to, knowing the tree by its fruit, and he compares all of us to trees, right? There's a lot of things that become clearer. You get a better understanding just by working the land, whether it be growing fruit or tomatoes or fruit or vegetables or trees or anything, right? That's something I've always highly recommended for people to get into and to try, because like it says in Sirach 33 and 27, it says, send him to labor that he be not idle, for idleness teacheth much evil. I know a lot of brothers and sisters, especially brothers, that have been reaching out to me as of late and saying they're going through certain trials and temptations and falling into things like that. One of the best ways for you not to be falling into temptations, whether it be, hanging out with the wrong people, and then you end up doing things you know you shouldn't be doing, whether it be smoking weed or going out to the club and drinking and putting yourself in bad positions, whether it be brothers that are struggling with pornography or any type of thing. One of the best ways to protect yourself from that is to stay busy, right? Is to be putting yourself to labor in whatever way, shape, or form you see fit, that is going to help you spiritually or physically in these last days, All right, so I'm gonna read that one more time. It's Sirach 33:27. Send him to labor, that he be not idle, for idleness teacheth much evil. So the same thing goes for sisters as well, right? Because there's a lot of sisters that, all they do is be on their phone all day, right? And if you read Second Timothy 5:13 on down, it says that there are a lot of women like that. They're just going from house to house, being tattlers, speaking things they shouldn't speak, being idle, right? And the reason that they do this is because they're not busy. There's so many different skills and so many different things that we could be learning in the age of information. We like think about it. 100 years ago or even 50 years ago, right? One generation or a couple of generations ago, they didn't have all this technology that we have nowadays. We could literally look up any category of Bible verses we want to look up. If you're struggling with, oh man, I'm in the fear of making decisions. I'm in the fear of doing things, right? Or I have anxiety. You could literally go to Google and Google Bible verses on fear, Bible verses on anxiety, Bible verses on um, being a workman, right? Bible verses on slothfulness. It's that easy for us to do that. But the majority of people don't do that because they're stuck in a perpetual cycle of idleness and doing things that are not benefiting them, either spiritually or physically. Right? There's a lot of brothers and sisters that have reached out to me as well. Man, I want to start growing food, or I want to start raising chickens, things of that nature, but I don't know how, or it seems hard, or I tried one time and it didn't work. We literally have the internet that the majority of our ancestors didn't have access to this information. They couldn't get access to this information. We have it at the tip of our fingers, right? So if we are choosing idleness, if we're choosing slothfulness over laboring and learning, right, whether it be learning scriptures, whether it be learning new skills, etc., it's going to lead us to evil things, right? Which is why it says, send him to labor, that he be not idle, for idleness teaches much evil. Not a little bit of evil, it teaches much evil. So instead of being a workman in the truth and studying your Bible, you're on the internet, right? And before you know it, you fall into gossiping, and then you see some sister or some brother tells you this about this person, you don't even know if it's true, and then you start talking about them to someone else, and now you're spreading lies and gossip and rumors and being a talebearer, right? And then you see somebody you don't even like on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever the case may be, right? Just because you're being idle, sitting around, and now you're holding a grudge against them, and now you have hatred in your heart to them. You see how it can just snowball very easily. And but why does it all start? It's from being idle. Same thing with brothers. I know brothers, a lot of brothers have reached out to me in the recent past and in the years, the last few years that I've been giving counsel and stuff like that, that struggle with pornography and things of that nature. Well, I guarantee you wouldn't be watching pornography if you were out, whether it be working out, whether it be studying, whether it be learning skills, right? Learning how to grow food or to do any type of skills, carpentry, hunting, fishing, any type, and doing anything that betters yourself as a man is going to be better than being idle and being slothful, right? But a lot of what it really comes down to, like I said before, is that we fall into cycles, right? When my first jujitsu coach, when I first started doing jujitsu, he would always say humans are creatures of habit, right? And that's very true. Whatever your vice or your habit is, especially if it's slothfulness, if it's being lazy, if it's not getting anything done, right? Then the majority of the time it's going to take a lot to break that habit, to break that slothfulness, to get out of that comfortability, right? Because your comfort zone will kill you if you allow it to, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go to Ecclesiastes chapter 10, and let me see. Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 18. It says, by much slothfulness the building decayeth, and through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. It says, by much slothfulness the building decayeth. Right? So let me ask y'all this. It shows there's 7 people on here right now. Damn, it just dropped from like 10 to 7. But it's all good. So 7 people on here right now. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. If you want to answer, you can. How many of you know that you should be in better shape physically, but because of slothfulness, you're not in better shape physically? Right? Think about that for a second. Because it says, by much slothfulness, the building decayeth. Right? We're a spirit inside of a body, not a body with a spirit. So our spirit is inside of our temple, which is our body or our building, right? And this says, by much slothfulness, the building decayeth. If your health is declining, right? If you're out of shape and your building, your temple is decaying, it says that is because of slothfulness. And through idleness of the hands, the house droppeth through. Right? So this could be applied to your temple, physically, your body. Through much slothfulness and idleness, it's going to start decaying. Right? What happens if you don't brush your teeth for a week or two? Your teeth are going to start decaying. Right? Why aren't you brushing your teeth? Oh, I'm just, I forget to, I'm lazy. You're being slothful, right? You're being idle. It says, by much slothfulness the building decayeth, and through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. Also, same thing goes with your physical house, your home. Right? If you're being slothful, you're being lazy, the house is gonna start falling apart. Every once in a while there's gonna be certain things you're gonna have to fix. You don't fix them, you don't take care of it, and what's gonna happen is gonna start falling apart. It says, through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. So that can be seen spiritually with your temple and your spirit. You got a lazy, slothful spirit, right? And now your health is declining, right? Your teeth. I remember back in high school, one of my best friends at that time, um, me and him. It was back before the truth, obviously. He's actually the first person that ever got me high that I smoked weed with, right? I think it was like fifth grade or sixth grade. And long story short, I had seen him before the summer started, and then after summer, he came back one year to high school, and I saw him, and man, his teeth were all not even stained. It was like a plaque buildup. And what had happened was for the whole summer, he got into smoking crack. He was smoking rock, right? And when he came back, I was like, damn, bro, like what happened to your teeth? And he was like, man, I got hooked. I was smoking pretty much all summer. I finally got off of it, but look at my teeth, bro. Like they were permanently stained, right? And that's what happens. That's just one example of how our spirit, through slothfulness, through idleness, allows our temple to start decaying, right? Malak Marco said, Khan, comfort is a drug. It really is a drug, right? Because you just want a little bit of it at first, right? And then and then you want more and more, and you slowly get more lazy and more lazy, and before you know it, either your temple is destroyed, or your temple is decaying, or your finances are decaying, right? A lot of brothers or sisters that if they may be single and they have to work, right? But mainly brothers, when they get lazy, and then guess what happens? They don't have any money, right? Because you got to do some kind of labor in order to get money, in order to put food on the table, right? The brother Kingdom Minded said, Kanak, that slothfulness spirit turns into a procrastination spirit, then put off day to day spirit. Khan. It definitely does. And I've seen that happen many, many times to brothers and sisters. Because think about it this way, right? A lot of people get tempted to do things or to do things against the Most High, right? But once you know certain commandments, most people start with keeping Sabbath and the dietary laws. Okay, I'm not going to eat these things. Maybe they start wearing fringes, things like that, right? But all they really have to do, or all the enemy really has to do, is get you to be lazy and not do anything, right? So now you may not be breaking Sabbath, or you may not be being disrespectful to your parents. You may not be using the Most High's name in vain. You may not be out stealing or killing nobody, but you're also not doing anything, right? You're not studying. You're not providing for your household. You're not providing for your family. You're not taking care of your temple. So you can see how slothfulness could really just destroy somebody, and they may think they're doing all right, right? They may think, well, yeah, I'm not breaking these commandments, whatever. But all the enemy really has to do is get them to be slothful, and then, like you said, it turns into a procrastination spirit, and then put off day to day spirit, right? So this is Sirach, to go along with what you're saying. This is Sirach 5 and 7. It says, "Make no tarrying to turn to Yahweh, and put not off from day to day, for suddenly shall the wrath of the Most High come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance." All right, so we can't be putting off from day to day to get right with the Most High. Whether it be just stop being lazy, whether it be getting to work, whether it be working on your temple, whether it be working on your finances to provide for your household, whether it be working on yourself spiritually and studying more, or like the sister said earlier, memorizing more verses, writing them upon the table of your heart, right? Whether it be, um, that the famine is coming, famine of the words, you got to get in the scriptures, famine, physical famine of food. So you got to start preparing for that as well, right? Like Joseph did when he was in Egypt and he knew the famine was coming. So he stored up uh, wheat in the storehouses all around in different cities. Right, and a lot of people will make excuses as to not be, just because they don't want to do these things, right? But what you really have to ask yourself, if you're one of these people that makes excuses from doing these things, is okay. Well, what are you spending your time on then? What are you doing that's more important than doing these things, right? The brother said, I fell into that recently and I immediately got myself in order. Khan, all praise to the Most High. All praise to the Most High. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the only way that you're going to start getting yourself in order is when you realize that you have a problem, right? It's just like with Alcohol Anonymous or with any other drug programs. I know about these things because a lot of the people, especially on my mom's side of the family, um, are addicts or were addicts, right? So you can never get better until you admit you have a problem. But how are you going to figure out you have a problem is either A, you're self-examining yourself on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, and when you figure out something's wrong, you're actually honest with yourself and you're able to look in the mirror and say, okay, you know what? This is what's what I need to work on. This is what's messing me up, right? And then you take the steps to correct it. Or B, you have somebody, whether it be a faithful friend, whether it be a husband or a wife, etc., that helps to keep you in check, right? Because in the end, two are better than one, right? Everybody would rather have someone to help them than not help them for the most part. For the most part, right? So let me go ahead and go to Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 13. So this is Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 13. It says, "Love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. Love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty." Right? I had a job recently where I had to do some training, and there was like about 20 people in the class. And it's funny because they were doing like a little icebreaker type of thing. And they asked this one, they were asking everybody, like, what's your hobby? And this one girl said sleep. And everyone started laughing. They're like, no, but like, what else do you like to do besides work and stuff like that? And she's like, no, that's pretty much it. Just sleep, eat, sleep, watch TV, sleep some more, right? So this says, love not sleep lest thou come to poverty. But the thing is, when you love sleep, it's going to lead you to poverty, right? And this could be seen spiritually as well, because if you love to be spiritually asleep, you don't love to be fed knowledge to wake you up even more, right? Mentally and spiritually. It says, love not sleep lest thou come to poverty. You're going to end up being spiritually poor, right? And this is why we're supposed to be in the scriptures every day, right? So it can feed us. If we can get those tokens, as Ezra said in First and Second Ezra's in the Apocrypha, right? Those tokens, or as it says here, open thine eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. We need that bread of life to keep us fed, right? To keep us awake spiritually. Brother said, running helps me a lot with self-examination. Con. I used to run a lot more when I would do boxing, but personally I don't really like to run anymore. But when if I work out or I do MMA or gardening as well, or even like, because I've always done landscaping on the side, whether it be cutting the yard, cutting trees, anything where you can, basically block out the noise of the world, is going to give you that quietness, that stillness, to go ahead and self-examine yourself, and for you to be able to have a clear mind, to have clear thoughts, right? And that's like in Psalm 46. Let me get that real quick. Psalm 46 and 10. It says to be still, right? It is Psalm 46 and 10. Be still and know that I am the Most High. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. So this says, be still and know that we have a God above us, right? And around us and in us through his spirit. So it doesn't have to literally mean being still, but when you still your mind, and I know exactly what you're talking about, Ak, because I remember when I would run too, and we would run, 4, 5, 6, 7 miles. Um, it really does give you that opportunity to still your mind, even though you're moving and running, right? But you can really think clearer when you're not paying attention to the outside world. So I definitely agree with you on that, right? I'm gonna go ahead and go back to Proverbs. Salakia. Salakia. 1 second. I'm gonna go to Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 12. All right, this is Ecclesiastes 5 and 12. It says, "The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep." Right? So the sleep of a laboring man is sweet. When you've got a good day of working, and you go to sleep, man, you feel so good to go lay down after you shower, right? I know I'll take cold showers after I work all day, especially if it's like working outside. It says the sleep of a laboring man is sweet. When you get to your head hits that pillow and you just lay down and you're like, man, I know I got a lot done. And then you pray to the Most High and you just have that. There's no feeling like that. Right? So it says the sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much. And as long as you're fed, you're good, right? You know you got a good day's working, you got a lot accomplished. But the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. Right? And it's like it says in Psalms, there's no rest for the wicked. Right? The abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. Haven't any of y'all, or maybe y'all haven't, have any of y'all in the past had where let's say you lay down and you're like, man, I didn't study today, or I didn't read today, and it bothers you, right? And it almost takes away your sleep. Or maybe you can fall asleep, but it's going through your head like, man, that's happened to me a few times where I'll feel bad. So a lot of times, in the past when that's happened, I'll be like, I'll just go and grab my phone real quick. I'll be in the dark and I'll read a chapter, and then it leads to a couple chapters because I feel so bad, right? So it's also laboring in the truth because we're supposed to be in the scriptures on a daily basis, right? At least two times we're supposed to be in the scriptures, right? I'm gonna read that real quick. Psalm chapter 1 and verse, I'll just start on 1. It says, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of Yahweh, and in his law, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Right? So what I always try to do, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes in the morning it doesn't happen. But what I always try to do on a daily basis in the morning, I'll listen to some scriptures either on the way to work, or when I'm eating breakfast, or I'll listen to some right while I'm eating breakfast, or read my Bible, read a chapter, right, just to try and get my head right, or get the scriptures in my head, I should say, as the day is starting. Or I could just be slothful and, nah, you know what, I'm just gonna sit here and eat. Or I'm just gonna drive to work and in the silence, or listening to music. It's a lot easier to choose that idle option, right? So it says, but his delight is in the law of Yahweh, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. So this is the trick. This is I've made many posts about this, and little videos and stuff like that about this. A lot of people want to prosper in whatever they're doing, right? Whether it be in work, whether it be in your marriage, whether it be in your relationship, your household, whatever the case may be, right? Everybody wants to prosper. Nobody wants to fail, right? So this says, whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Whatsoever who does is going to prosper. What kind of person is this talking about? It's talking about somebody who is not taking counsel from ungodly people, someone who is not standing in the way of sinners, right? Someone who is meditating in the word of the Most High day and night, right? And actually applying it, putting it to work, instead of being idle and slothful, right? And doing it unto the Most High. I just noticed in the little title on the bottom of the video, it says working into the Most High. That's That's supposed to say working unto the Most High. I'll correct it after the video. But so it says, and he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. So, like a tree planted by the water, like I said earlier, there's so many references to agriculture and horticulture in the scriptures, right? And when you start doing these things, obtaining these skills, or striving to live the way our ancestors did, they all make a lot more sense when you're reading these scriptures, right? When you plant a tree next to a river, I remember a couple years back, probably 3 to 6 years back. We're living there for a couple years. We lived with a resaca in the back, which is basically like a, I guess, like a man-made river, right? And all the trees, there was a couple trees that were along it in our on our property, but then all along the properties, all those trees that were by the water, man, they just kept growing and growing and growing. You never had to water them, of course, because they're planted next to that body of water, right? So it's saying when we meditate in the Word, because the Word is the living waters, right? We're gonna be like those trees. We're gonna continue to grow. And if it's a fruit tree, right, which is obviously comparing to, because it says, and he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. The only way that a tree is going to bring forth that fruit is because it's absorbing the water, and the water is, in a sense, becoming a part of it, right? So when we get into the Bible and into studying and meditating in the laws, especially at least once a day, once a night, and we're applying it, we're absorbing that living water, we're going to start to bring forth the fruit in the season that the Most High wants us to bring it forth in, right? And again, like I said, whether that be in your marriage or in another type of relationship, or in your job, in your relationship with your children, etc., right? But I know a lot of people have told me in the past, it's just, man, I just can't, either I can't find the time to study, which, to be honest, that's not even a reason. That's just a complete excuse, right? There's so much time that we spend, that everybody spends wasting, that can't even be, that can't be a valid excuse at all, right? And what I tell people, or I tell the majority of people when they say things like that is, oh, well, I don't have the time for studying. I don't have the time for learning how to grow food. I don't have the time for whatever the case may be. I'll tell them, okay, you have Instagram? Yeah, I got Instagram. All right, go to your activity. How much you've been on it for a day? Screenshot it, send it to me. And only a couple people have actually done that. Right, have actually showed me, because they're embarrassed, and they know that there's no excuse as to why they don't have time. So again, what does that go back to? That goes back to idleness, and idleness leads to what? To evil, right? Slothfulness, just being lazy. What it comes down to is you don't want to do it, and instead of admitting that you don't want to do it, you're going to make excuses. In most people's minds, it's reasons, right? They think it's a reason as to why uh, they don't want to study, or reasons as to why they don't want to obtain skills that are going to be prudent and profitable for them. They think it's reasons as to why they don't exercise and get their temple in shape, right? Even though our temple is what the vessel that's holding the Holy Spirit, right? And even though the Most High says, if you defile your temple, He'll destroy you, right? But they're not reasons; they're actually just excuses, right? They're excuses. So again, the attitude of the Spirit that all of us have to be moving in. I know I read it in Colossians 3:23, where it says, "Whatsoever you do it heartily as unto the Most High." But this is Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 10. It says, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. Do it with thy might, meaning do it with all your power. Do it to the best of your ability. Right? Whatever your hand finds to do, like it said in Colossians, do it as if you're doing it for the Most High. This says, do it with all your might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. Meaning, when you die, you don't get to come back and try and do it better. Right? Oh, I'm going to go back and that one time when that's not going to happen. Right? So if you're studying, let's say you're studying, right? That's what your hand and your mind is finding to do. Do it with all your might. Don't just read through it and then, oh, I don't really understand what that word means. Oh, but I get the rest of it. Right? No, look into that word. Look into the etymology of the word. Right? If you go to Etymo, I believe it's Etymo online, it'll tell you the etymology or the history of that word. Right? It'll tell you what it meant all the way from the beginning use of that word until now. Go to the blue letter Bible. If it's in the so-called New Testament, look up what the Greek word meant. Right? What are the definitions for the Greek word? Look it up in the Hebrew if it's in the Old Testament, and really get a good understanding. That's how you do it with your might. Do it as if you're actually trying to learn something. Do it as if you're doing it towards the Most High. Right? Whether it be um, teaching your children, right? Don't just, okay, we read a whole chapter, cool. When you know you can break it down better, and when you know they don't really have that good of a grasp or understanding on it, whether it be you're working out because you're trying to get in shape and you know that your body is the Most High's temple, and then you just kind of half-ass it, right? Anything that you do, you should be doing it as if you are doing it for the Most High, right? There's actually another precept for this in 1 Corinthians 15, I believe. Let me see real quick. Kingdom Minded 144. It's been on my arc to come down and get baptized. I assume you meant Heart Arc Khan. If you wanna, like I've told you before, my door is always open for you. Either me or the brother, y'all, or both of us can definitely help you to make that happen, right? Tomorrow, or as long as we see the first light, which it should be tomorrow, we're going to be observing Feast of Trumpets, and then Day of Atonement 10 days later, and then Feast of Tabernacles at the end of the month. So if you want to come at any of those times, if you're able to, or at a later time, at an earlier time, whatever the case may be, I believe you still have my phone number, so just message me if anything up. But yeah, if the Most High puts it on your spirit to do so, and as I've said many times before, I know there's a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but probably like half of the camps, congregations, I guess Israelites in general, people that are believers, people that are in the faith. I say about half of them believe in water baptism for remission of sins, and I would say probably about half of them that I've met at least don't believe in it. Right, so I highly recommend and exhort you, brothers and sisters, to look into that topic, pray on that topic, and if the Most High puts a spirit on you to want to get baptized in the Hebrew names, right, then I would highly exhort you to do so, especially as things get worse in these last days, right? And not to get off topic, but I'm gonna get one verse on that. For you, brother, this is Acts 22 and 16. Acts 22 and 16. It says, "And now why tarriest thou? Arise and be baptized, and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of the Lord." Right? So it says, why are you tarrying? And now why tarriest thou? Why are you waiting to do it? Arise and be baptized and wash away thy sins, because that's what the water baptism represents. When you have the full faith and you go into that water, right? You have full faith that it's for remission of sins, meaning you become new spiritually. Obviously, you don't become a physically new person, but you spiritually become a new person. It washes away your sins through the baptism, right? That's the physical work, because faith without works is dead. So you have the faith in it. You have the faith in the Most High and His Son that He died for you, that you can get remission of sins through the water baptism, and you physically get in the water and do it. And that's the culmination of faith plus works, right? So definitely go ahead and message me out if you the Most High puts on your spirit to do so. I got to take a break from my gaming system. Con, do it. If you ever feel like you got to do something for the Most High, I'm a firm believer that He puts the Spirit on you to do so, to do things a lot of times, or not to do things, and we got to learn how to listen to that discernment, right? Like it says in First Corinthians chapter 2, and maybe I'll get that right after this, right? So this is First Corinthians 15 and 58. It says, "Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Most High." So when you're laboring for the Most High, and you're always abounding in the work of the Most High, which it just means to follow these scriptures, right? To study and to apply it into your life. Because, like I say all the time, if the Bible was easy, it was easy to do, then everyone would just do it. Anybody who says they believe in the Bible, Christians, Catholics, uh, Mormons, anybody, right, that claim they believe in the Bible, if it was easy, they would just do it. They would just follow it. But it's not easy. So as it says here, it says, "For as much as you know that your labor, your work, is not in vain." You got to always keep in mind that the Most High is not like man, right? He's not a liar. He's not slack on the promises that He makes to us. When He says in Deuteronomy 28 and many other chapters and verses, when He says in the whole first 14 verses of Deuteronomy 28, if you keep His commandments, there's blessings that are going to come with keeping those commandments, right? So we have to know, as we're working for the Most High, towards the Most High, walking that kingdom's path, that your labor is not in vain. But guess what? It is labor, right? It's not easy. It's not something that you're just gonna, oh yeah, that's easy to do. Let me just do that. Right? We have to continue to abide in our labor. And that's what I've seen over the years, man. Sadly, I've seen brothers, a lot of brothers and even sisters fall out of the truth because they just can't continue in that labor. Right? They can't continue in that labor. I'm gonna get a couple more verses. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. Tomorrow, most high willing, me and the brother y'all will be doing a Feast of Trumpets lesson. It's gonna most likely be a lot longer, a lot more verses in depth. Gonna go over, Feast of Trumpets, obviously, but a few things, kind of blowing the trumpet on a few things that I personally, and I know the brother and other brothers and sisters as well, have been seeing, especially, camp to camp, congregation to congregation, people that claiming to be in the truth, that just issues that are abounding and becoming more common amongst people in the faith or that believe the truth, right? And kind of to go along with Feast of Trumpets, blowing the trumpet on that, so to speak, right? So this is Sirach chapter 11 and verse 21. It says, "Marvel not at the works of sinners." See, that's why a lot of brothers and sisters fall out of the truth, because they marvel at the works of sinners. They see, oh man, but these people are sinning and they have this and they have that. And that's what I've always wanted. And that's how I've wanted to be. And that's what I've wanted to be. Right? They marvel at the works of sinners. This says, marvel not at the works of sinners, but trust in Yahweh and abide in thy labor. You need to continue to live in the labor of the Most High, which again is just living out these scriptures. And how are you going to live out the scriptures if you don't know what they say? Right? So being a workman in the truth, studying to show yourself approved, but then also applying what you are learning, right? And that is how you abide in your labor. I'm going to read that one more time. It says, marvel not at the works of sinners, but trust in Yahweh and abide in thy labor. For it is an easy thing in the sight of Yahweh on the sudden to make a poor man rich. It's an easy thing for the Most High to make a poor man rich. Whether that means, I know most people are gonna automatically, their mind is gonna wander off to what? To finances, to money, right? Oh, he can make me rich all of a sudden. I can find $1 million. I can hit the lotto, right? But what did Solomon ask for when the Most High said, "I'll give you anything"? He said, "I want discernment to be able to judge between good and evil." Right? I want a wise and understanding heart. And then because he asked for that, the Most High gave it to him. And then he also gave him riches and respect and honor. Right? So when it says it's an easy thing in the sight of the Most High on the sudden to make a poor man rich, even more mentally, spiritually, right? Rich in discernment, rich in wisdom, rich to understand the scriptures, to start memorizing and applying the scriptures, right? It's an easy thing for the Most High to just give it to you, but you got to prove that you actually want it. Like it says in First Thessalonians, the 5th chapter, it says, prove all things. So if it says prove all things, we know that the Most High is in a constant state of proving us as well. So what are we saying to the Most High, or what are you saying to the Most High when you're just being idle and slothful, right? Or what you're telling him is that you don't really want the kingdom. You don't really want to be the man or the woman that you say that you want to be, or that you post that you want to be. So the brother Kingdom Minded again said, too many brothers talk down on others like they already got a spot in the kingdom. Khan. I'm definitely gonna touch on that actually tomorrow. Uh, I believe I already put it on YouTube, the live for tomorrow. It just says blowing the trumpet. I think it says like correction, pride, exhortation, brotherhood, sisterhood. That's definitely one of the topics we're going to touch on, because a lot of brothers and sisters do this. A lot of brothers and sisters, that's one thing I hate to see or hate to hear, right? When they're like, oh, that brother's 2/3, that brother's bugged out, that brother or that sister is going to be destroyed, things like that, right? Nobody, none of us are the judge, jury, and executioner. Only the Most High is. The Most High and His Son gonna judge the earth, and obviously, um, when that happens, we'll know who's actually chosen. But when certain brothers are condemning other brothers, you already know they're moving in the spirit of pride. And like it says in Sirach 10, actually, I'm gonna go ahead and finish with that, right? Since I'm on it right here. This is Sirach 10 and 12. The beginning of pride is when one departeth from the Most High, and his heart is turned away from his Maker. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination. And therefore Yahweh brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly. One of the ways brothers move in pride is thinking that their spot in the kingdom is already promised, right? Like you said, thinking they already got a spot in condemning brothers. All we can do is what our Messiah Hamashiach Yahushua did, and what he said in Luke 13:3 and 13:5. He said the exact same thing. He said, unless you repent, actually let me get it for you real quick. All right, he says, I'll tell you nay, but except ye repent, ye shall all likewise perish. That's verse 3. Verse 5, I tell you, nay, but except ye repent, ye shall all likewise perish. Right? And this is why we have to tell people, we have to be sure to tell people, like, look, you have to repent, because if you don't, then what all these other brothers and things like that are saying, then you're going to be destroyed if you don't repent, because the Most High says that. You're not going to make it to the kingdom unless you repent. Right? But doing what, and I know exactly what you're saying, because I've seen it over the years many times, countless times. Brothers act like their spot is already promised in the kingdom, and none of us know that, right? I've seen brothers that were mighty, some brothers that I even learned from in the years past, that aren't even in the truth no more, aren't even trying to follow the Bible no more. You know what I'm saying? So we have to pray always that we're going to be accounted worthy to miss all these things that are going to come to pass, but also in order to keep eyes to see and ears to hear, and pray always to the Most High that He doesn't take His Spirit away from us, right? Because I've seen that happen too many times, and man, it's a sad thing, but it's also like it's a faith building thing and a fear building thing. At least for me, because you know that could happen to you. I know that could happen to me, and that just makes me fear the Most High even more, right? So actually, I'm gonna finish with this. This is Psalm 51 and verse 11. It says, "Cast me not away from thy presence, and take not thy Holy Spirit from me." All right, it says, "Cast me not away from thy presence, and take not thy Holy Spirit away from me." A lot of brothers and sisters, like y'all probably seen, those of you who follow me on Instagram, um, I post that pretty much every year, but it's crazy because it's true and it's happening over the past years, the past 6 to 7 years that I've started learning about this truth. I just see brothers and sisters falling out and falling out and falling out. And I mean literally, I don't mean like, oh, they're falling and then getting back up again. I mean literally like, uh, they stop with the fringes, stop keeping Sabbath, stop trying to they stop following any of the laws that they learned, because they just don't want to do it anymore. They start eating shrimp and crab and lobster again, and swine, and doing all manners of abominations, right? They just completely stop trying to follow the Most High, right? And what that comes down to again is they don't want to work, and they don't want to abide in their labor and work towards the Most High, right? Because again, this walk, this path is not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak, right? It's not for the weak. It's for those that are willing to work, to get their hands dirty, so to speak, because it takes a lot to self-examine, to look in the mirror, to get in the scriptures, to read the scriptures in a way that it applies to your life. Not just like, oh, okay, this says this. This says pride is bad in the eyes of the Most High, but you don't apply it to your life and say, well, you know what? What I said earlier today to this person was pretty prideful, so I need to work on that, right? Or it says anger rested in the bosom of a fool. Oh yeah, that's true. But then you don't realize, man, well, I've been getting angry every time this happens, or anytime I talk to this person. I really need to work on that, right? And you're being idle, not only in your examination, but in your application of what you're learning and what you know you need to correct in your own life, right? And that's probably the worst form of idleness. Obviously, being idle, not doing anything with your life, right? Because actually, the last thing I'll say is, it's sad to see brothers and sisters that have been in this truth for years, right? Have known of the truth for years and years, and they're still in the exact same position that they've been in since they first learned about the truth, right? They still got the same amount of knowledge or understanding or discernment as when they first came into truth. They're still having the same struggles and the same problems as when they first came into the truth. Or they're still in the same position physically as when they first came into the truth, right? As far as like being set apart and things of that nature. Because that's one thing I always tell people as well, right? Being set apart is the most reiterated, repeated laws in the Torah. Why? Because it's so important. Being set apart is going to save you from getting all types of spirits on you, right? So being idle and being comfortable in environments that where you're not set apart, that is a form of idleness too. That is a form of slothfulness too. You should be working to get out of that environment, right? And that's why, to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, a few brothers and even sisters come to mind that I've seen fall out of the truth. And the majority of the time, it has a lot to do with that, or that is the exact reason, because they don't set themselves apart. And because they don't set themselves apart, they end up falling into different temptations. They end up falling back into the world, right? They end up falling back into the exact same thing that they were struggling with before they even learned the truth, right? Too many brothers. Layla, Sirach 26 and 28. Oh, Khan. That's a heavy verse. Let me get that real quick. That's when people return back to their sin. Sirach chapter 26 and verse 28. It says, "There be two things that grieve my heart, and the third maketh me angry, a man of war that suffereth poverty." And I signed up, for those of you who don't know, I signed up to be in the Army Reserves when I was 17 years old, right? Y'all, most people probably aren't aware, but there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of so-called veterans, people that were in the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, the Navy, that came back and are homeless right now. Right? This is the first thing that says that there are things that grieve my heart. It says a man of war that suffereth poverty. That's a perfect example of that, modern day example. It says, and men of understanding that are not set by, and one that returneth from righteousness to sin. Yahweh prepareth such a one for the sword. What is that sword? The sword is destruction, right? It says somebody that returns from righteousness to sin, the Most High prepares destruction for that person, right? And that's why in Hebrews, the 6th chapter, Hebrews, the 10th chapter, it talks about when people come into this truth and then fall back out of it. I suggest y'all read that, right? I've gone over that many times in different lessons. 2 Peter 2:21 and 22 as well, right? Like a dog returning to his vomit. It's sad to see that, but again, it goes back to being idle spiritually, being slothful spiritually. You no longer have that drive to work towards the kingdom, right? And your spirit is normally showed in one way or another, outwardly as well, right? So when a lot of people are declining spiritually, you'll also see that their health or their temple starts to decline as well, right? I've seen that as well many times. But calm, that's a heavy verse, sis. The water for that. But other than that, um, I'll just say, what the title says: idleness leads to evil. The more idle time you have, the more time you're not doing anything productive. That's giving the opportunity to the enemy to be productive in your life, right? For the other side, which leads to evil. So everything you do towards the Most High. With that, I say Shabbat Shalom. Happy Feast of Trumpets to those of y'all observing it. Most High willing, we'll be on here tomorrow and doing a more lengthy live for the Feast of Trumpets. Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakatah. All praise to the Most High. Shalom.